Hey there, MJ traders and investors. It's Rod with Power Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, and interviews. Today's Wednesday, November 30th, the last day of the month. Hope you're doing well. In this video, going to be discussing the stock Organigram, ticker symbol OGI. Going to be looking at the stock on the NASDAQ. We'll do some technical analysis and we'll dive into their Q4 and full fiscal year 2022 earnings. They did beat estimates with regards to the Q4 analyst forecasts. We're going to take a look at all that and more, but stay tuned. We'll get to it in just a moment. If you could smash the like, it would help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, and you'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. So the earnings report was great in my opinion. Obviously, the stock didn't react a whole lot. On this news yesterday, it popped about 6%, then closed near the low of the day, only ending up about 1% higher than the previous day close. But as I've been saying, I'm not putting too much weight into one particular stock's earnings report. Each individual earnings report right now is not really going to matter at this point. Any pump that we see is just going to be faded, just like the pump we saw yesterday. It pumped about 6%, and then we faded it, and then we went back down to the low of the day. In order to see sustained gains, we need the whole sector to reverse. We need something like safe banking. We need something like rescheduling in the U.S., but some sort of U.S. reform or some sort of sector-wide catalyst. I'm going to be doing another live stream here in about an hour as well on the MJ sector. So we'll do a complete deep dive on the whole space. If anybody does have any questions, you can join in, and I'll take a look at any tickers that you have or any questions that you might have. But essentially, not paying too much attention to individual financial reports at the moment because we need to confirm monthly uptrends across the whole sector. We know that CGC confirmed a monthly uptrend but didn't see much follow through. So we need not just CGC, we need the whole sector to confirm monthly uptrends. And then we can likely see a sustained rally, and these moves will likely result in more upside and not just getting faded away. So I'll go through my thoughts and opinions on this. Organigram had great results. They're well on track to reach profitability in 2023. I would say probably the back half of 2023, while a lot of other names in its peers. But they're probably going to be into 2024, 2025. The CGCs of the world, Canopy Growth, for those that are unaware. But essentially, as many CEOs have been saying from Canadian LPs, licensed producers, the days of unprofitable LPs are numbered. So Organigram Q4 revenue rises 19% sequentially to $45.5 million. I know that turned a lot of heads. And if we take a look at the earnings report, you can see here the revenue was forecasted at $42.82 million, and it came in at $45.48. So a pretty big beat there in terms of revenue. And EPS was forecasted at negative 0.0217. Came in at negative 0.02, so a slight beat there. So beat on both EPS, earnings per share, and revenue. But again, we're not going to see fundamentals matter and individual earnings report matter until the whole sector completely reverses and confirms monthly uptrend, both the US, Canadian, not just LPs and MSOs, but also retailers and ETFs. Once we have monthly uptrends, then we can put more individual weighting into individual earnings reports, right? So at the moment, we're trending in the right direction. And like I said, this was great news, but not enough to move the market, right? Or to move the stock because of the market still being bearish. So until we confirm those monthly uptrends, again, I'm not putting too much weight into these. I'm going to be looking at potentially the first earnings in 2023, if not the second report in 2023 for a lot of these names to start really shifting. And once we see profitability in a lot of these Canadian LPs, this is when things are really going to start to heat up. And OGI is on the NASDAQ, so once we do get any kind of reform in the US, this is one of those names that a lot of retail investors are going to flock into. They're going to flock towards this one because it's tradable on the NASDAQ, and a lot of people in the US do not have access to OTC, over-the-counter tickers, right? So I'm going to run through this a little bit quicker here. So we had some massive sequential growth, 19%, as I mentioned. They continued their trend of record quarterly net revenue and positive adjusted EBITDA. EBITDA saw a nice improvement as well, while growing share of adult recreational market in Canada. So highest in history, $45.5 million for the quarter, up 83% from $24.9 million the same prior year period, and 19% from $38.1 million in Q3 fiscal 2022. Adjusted EBITDA of $3.2 million, the third consecutive quarter in positive adjusted EBITDA, and compared to negative adjusted EBITDA of $4.8 million in the same period of the prior year. So if we just take a look, gross margin, $10.4 million or 23% compared to $3 million or 12% in the same prior year period. So that's great, almost a 100% increase there. Improvements from increased efficiencies and higher sales volumes. So we'll run through this. I'm sure a lot of you already read this. I did send some notes out to the POW Group private community. So I'll just go over these here now. So again, we're starting to see increase market share. So let's just go through this here real quickly. So in fiscal Q4 fiscal 2022 held number 3 position among Canadian licensed producers with 8.2% market share compared to 7% in the prior year period. And in October, Organigram achieved number 2 market position. According to OCS shipped sales data, Organigram achieved number 1 market position in Ontario since January 2022 and maintained it throughout the balance of fiscal year 3. So if we take a look at Organigram, achieved the number 1 market position in the Maritimes where it was formed since January 2022 until the end of the fiscal year, and continues to hold number 1 position in dried flour, the largest category in Canadian MJ, and number 3 position nationally in gummies, and number 1 position in hash in the Quebec market. And they did acquire Laurentian, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Laurentian Organic Inc., and that happened back on December 21st, 2021. So starting to see some fruits of those labors and starting to really see the benefits of that acquisition. So if we take a look, let's go through my notes here. So again, the market share is going to continue to fluctuate, in my opinion. We're going to see a lot of these LPs kind of just take turns, and I think that Organigram is a name I hold, full disclosure. It's probably my 3rd or 4th biggest position in Canada. Very bullish on this name. Long term, we know that they have a partnership with BAT, British American Tobacco, but I'm very bullish on this company long term. I actually met one of the co-founders back in PEI, where I'm from in Prince Edward Island, and it's actually not too far away from my hometown. So very bullish on this name long term, but again, we're going to see these names like OGI, Tilray, Hexo, they're probably going to continue to fluctuate in terms of market share. But something to remember is that these businesses are very, very different, right? Organigram's very, very big on 2.0 and edibles, so 2.0 products. But case in point, the industry just doesn't care about fundamentals, right? Is because of these numbers. This ER was great. They beat on both EPS and revenues. But the stock only moved 6% and then closed down at the low of the day, only up 1% higher than the previous day close, right? So until we get that profitability and the sector-wide reversal and monthly uptrends across the sector, I'm expecting, just kind of sideways action or more of the same that we've been seeing, right? But overall, OGI is still down about 87% from February 2021 highs. So just following the rest of the sector, right? The average is down 89% in Canada, plus since February 2021, and around 70 to 80% plus for USMJ since February 2021. So it wasn't a huge crush in earnings, but a beat nonetheless, but still forecasting negative EPS next quarter. So we're not expecting positive cash flow positive next quarter, but like I said, sometime in 2023, in my opinion. But yes, they do seem to be. We were talking about this in the POW Group private community. What are they doing well? And they do seem to be doing a better job at supply. That's one thing I noticed as well in keeping products on the shelf. A lot of other LPs are running out and missing sales opportunities. As they mentioned in this report, continues to hold number 1 position in dried flour, largest category in Canadian MJ market, number 3 position in nationally in gummies, and number 1 position for hash in Quebec, right? They also introduced 18 new SKUs in Q4 fiscal 2022 for a total of 85 in the market, which is great to see. And if we just scroll down here, so another piece that went along with my thoughts on the supply aspect, they generated an 11% increase in yield per plant in Q4 fiscal 2022 compared to the same prior year period as a result of environment improvements, which contributed to reduced cultivation costs of 23% in fiscal 2022 versus fiscal 2021, provided additional flour to address growing consumer demand, right? And we know that a lot of other LPs have said that they're struggling to meet consumer demand with regards to flour. So again, I think the reason why a lot of people are asking how come they're seeing such a big jump quarter over quarter, I think that has to do with them keeping products on the shelf. They're meeting the growing consumer demand, while a lot of other companies right now are struggling to meet demand, trying to increase their output by 200-300%, especially in the flour category. I think that bodes well for them. Also, another reason why they did really well is because of this acquisition with Laurentian and Organic Inc. and that hash segment, right? So I think that was a big driver. Also, international sales was a big thing as well. They shipped 6 million of high margin flour to Australia and Israel in Q4 fiscal 2022. In fiscal 2022, Organigram shipped 15.4 million of flour internationally compared to 0.4 million in fiscal 2021. So they're seeing a huge increase in international as well. Just going over the rest of my notes. I didn't get a chance to join the earnings call, but I'll try my best to get on the replay. But if I scroll down here, they did release a couple new market introductions. So Shred, Dankmeister XL Bong Blends, Sour Blue Raspberry. So in addition to Shred's gummy line and electrifying sour raspberry flavor, 2-to-1 ratio of CBD. There are now 8 Shred'em SKUs in the market. So again, big on 2.0 and edibles. Holy Mountain, the company's newest value brand. So dried flour. So again, getting into that value brand, and I think that's going to continue to maintain lots of interest, especially with rising inflation and the recession that we're in. But Shred is surprisingly successful. It's not really my preferred format, but apparently it's selling well, and a lot of other LPs are starting to follow their lead there as well. So by having that grinded format, right? But thing to remember about pricing as well at retail level, I wanted to mention is that it's not always up to the LPs. It's the retail aspect as well. So, the high tides, the fire and flowers, that was something that we talked about as well, that Organigram does really good on their pricing, but something to be aware of is mostly wholesale, right? So Organigram would sell to the retailer in some provinces like Alberta, but in some provinces like Ontario, where it's government controlled, they ship to the OCS and then it gets distributed from there. But a lot of these retailers make up the prices. So if you do see pricing, it's not all on the LP, right? It has to do with the retailer as well. But like I said, I think they're doing a really good job with pricing and keeping the products on the shelves and doing real well on the 2.0 segment. But something to keep in mind is that, I'm very diversified. I have OGI as my third or fourth biggest holding in Canada. But a lot of these different businesses are very different, right? The OGI is big on edibles, and the 2.0 segment, and they're focusing a lot on pure MJ. You got the Tilrays of the world that are focusing more on a balanced approach. They got alcohol, a distribution business. They've got MJ as well. You got CGC, which is focusing a lot on different partnerships in the U.S. Hexo focusing on beverages and purely MJ as well. And then you got like the Sundials of the world who are focusing on retail and not just MJ retail, but also alcohol retail. So a lot of these names are very, very different businesses. The thing is, we just don't know who's going to have long-term staying power, who the losers and winners are going to be long-term. That's why I'm diversified, and I own about 14 different MJ stock positions now. But like I said, OGI is definitely in my top 5 holdings, and very bullish on this name going forward. If we take a look at the monthly chart, though, the monthly volume is basically non-existent on the NASDAQ. We take a look at CGC. CGC had the highest record monthly volume ever last month on the NASDAQ, but now we need to see OGI and the rest of our names follow suit. OGI had very, very low volume, nowhere near the all-time high volume on the NASDAQ for OGI. So that's something that we're going to be watching for, is a spike in volume. I do think that we could see a massive move up into the end of the year with potential reform in the U.S. Like I said, going to be doing a live stream here in about 50 minutes. So join us in for that. But taking a look at the weekly time frame here, we backtested the 10-week moving average, and we're in a weekly uptrend with the low, high, higher, low, and higher high on OGI, looking really, really good. Now we need monthly uptrends to confirm, which we haven't even started the monthly bounce yet. So once we break 108, well, if we do, that will start the monthly bounce, and then we'll look for that bounce to top out. We'll form a high, then a higher low and higher high. We need that monthly uptrend before the whole sector reverses, in my opinion. Stochastic and MACD are seeing a parabolic rise as well, looking really, really good there. In terms of the weekly moving averages, we have nothing nearby until 124 USD on the 50 weekly. If we can get a weekly candle close above that, we have nothing until 193 and then 263. So it's looking really good, and we could potentially see a golden cross where the shorter term moving average is below the longer term 200-day moving average. When that happens and they cross, it's called a golden cross, and usually means that a lot of upside is coming after that. On the other side, flip side of that, When the 50-day, the shorter-term moving average is above the 200-day, and it comes down through that 200-day moving average, that's called a death cross. And when that occurred, the price was at about 250, and then we went to about 85 cents USD, right? So that was a clear sell signal, and now we're seeing a potential buy signal over the next few weeks and months. But looking really, really good in terms of OGI. Like I said, beat on both analyst EPS and revenue. So earnings were great there. Like I said, a lot of the sequential growth and growth over the last year came from this acquisition, and also international, and also their pricing, very, very balanced approach to that, in my opinion, and also just keeping up with supply, right, and keeping products on shelves and not missing out on those opportunities. But going to end it there. Thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth. It's Rob with Power Group. Hopefully you find value in this video today. If you did, share it with anybody else. Share it with anybody else that might find value as well. If you could smash the like, I would appreciate it on your way out. If you think I earned it today, like I said, going to be going live here in about 50 minutes. Going to be going over the MJ legalization and talks heating up in the Senate, and we'll do a quick review of the MJ space at large. But thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth. We'll see you on the next video.